Cole Maddox yanked hard on the reins as Dust came to a sudden halt, planting his hooves in the sand and refusing to take another step. The horse snorted, uneasy, ears pinned forward as if catching something Cole couldn't yet see. 3 years riding these unforgiving lands had taught him one hard truth. When your horse balks in the desert, there's always a reason. Could be rattlers, could be outlaws, could be something worse. He swung down slowly, keeping his movements calm, running a steady hand along Dust's neck to settle him. The Arizona desert lay dead quiet around them. Too quiet. No insects, no vultures circling, just hot wind whispering through red stone and drifting sand. Cole knew that kind of silence. That was the kind that came before death. Then he heard it. A faint sound. Barely there. A low groan carried on the wind. Then another. And another. He climbed a nearby ridge of rock, shielding his eyes from the brutal midday sun. What he saw froze his blood despite the heat pressing down on him. A group, 40, maybe more, moving like ghosts across the dunes. They staggered, fell, crawled, dragged one another forward, a march toward death. The Red Sky people. Cole had lived long enough out here to recognize them, but never like this. Broken, starving, hollow-eyed, hanging by a thread. Whatever had happened to them, it had nearly wiped them out. Right there, Cole made a choice that would change everything. He could turn away, ride on to Miller Ranch, collect his pay, and forget what he saw. Or he could step into something that might kill him. He went down the ridge. Up close, it was worse. Little ones with cracked lips split open from thirst. River women clutching babies too weak to cry, never a good sign. Stone elders staring into nothing, already halfway gone. They hadn't had water in days. That much was clear. One man stepped forward from the group. Tall, broad-shouldered, worn down but not broken. Eagle feathers hung from his dark hair, and a long scar cut across his left cheek. But his eyes, sharp, steady, unyielding, a leader. He didn't speak. Just studied Cole, not begging, judging. Friend or enemy? Hope or danger? Cole slowly pulled his canteen and held it out. No words needed. The man took it, but didn't drink. Instead, he turned and walked to an old woman barely standing. Tala. He gave her the water first, then to a child, then another. Only after 5 had taken a sip did he raise it to his own lips and drink just a little. That told Cole everything. This man's the real thing. The leader touched his chest. Takai, he said, voice rough from thirst but firm. Cole nodded once. Cole. Between gestures and broken words, the story came together. Soldiers. Forced march. Dead guide. 3 weeks lost in unknown land. Water gone 2 days ago. And every hour under that sun pushing them closer to death. Cole ran the numbers in his head. His canteen might keep a few alive. For a few hours. Not enough. Not even close. With the afternoon heat coming, the weak would start dropping first. The little ones, then the elders. By tomorrow, half of them would be dead. Unless a memory hit him like lightning. His grandfather, Elias Maddox. Old Wolf, a trapper who'd spent 40 years in these lands. A man who'd lived among tribes, learned their ways, their hidden paths, their secrets. Cole could still hear his voice by the fire. There's a place where a stone eagle spreads its wings. When the sun stands high and its shadow points east, walk 50 steps. There, between red rock, you'll find what others never do. Cole had never needed that story before. Until now. He turned slowly, scanning the horizon. Rock formations stretched in every direction, shaped by time and wind into strange figures. Then he saw it. Far off, a formation that, from just the right angle, looked like a great eagle frozen in red stone, wings spread wide. His pulse quickened. That's it. It has to be. He raised his hand, pointing toward the rocks. Water, he said clearly, miming the act of drinking. Takai's eyes lit with something that hadn't been there before. Hope. Water, Cole said again, clear and firm, raising his hand and miming a drink. Takai's eyes flickered, just for a second, with something close to hope. But before he could answer, a sharp, angry voice cut through the air. A young warrior stepped forward, no older than 25. He moved like a coiled spring, all muscle and tension, like a mountain cat ready to strike. This was Matto. His dark eyes burned with suspicion. He spoke fast in his native tongue, voice rising, jabbing a finger straight at Cole. No translation needed. It's a trap. White men lie. He'll lead us to our deaths. 3 red sky riders moved in beside him, forming a wall between Cole and the rest of the people. Their hands hovered near their blades. The air shifted. Danger, thick and immediate. Takai raised his hand. When he spoke, his voice carried weight. Steady, commanding. The kind of voice men followed into battle. Matto fired back just as fiercely, his tone sharp, defiant. He wasn't backing down, not even for his chief. Cole didn't move. His hand stayed open, away from his gun. One wrong twitch, one bad read, and this would turn into bloodshed. 40 lives hung by a thread. The argument dragged on. Takai pointed toward the little ones, then the stone elders. Matto snapped back, pointing at Cole, then out into the empty desert. Hope versus fear. Trust versus survival. Both men were right, and both knew it. Then Takai spoke again. This time, his voice cut through everything. Even the wind seemed to fall quiet. Matto froze. For a moment, it looked like he might push back again, but he didn't. Slowly, reluctantly, he stepped aside. But his eyes never left Cole. A silent promise burned in them. I'm watching you. One mistake, and you're dead. Takai turned back. Koda, he said, gesturing toward the young warrior. My nephew. He does not trust. Then he touched his own chest. But I choose to. Cole gave a slow nod. He understood that kind of trust. It wasn't earned. It was borrowed. And it could be taken back just as fast. He swung up onto dust and started riding towards the stone eagle. Behind him, 40 souls followed. And somewhere in that crowd, he could feel it. Koda's stare, sharp as a blade, drilling into his back. Either he found water, or they all died out here, including him. The sun hung overhead like molten iron as Cole led them across the desert. Every step kicked up dust that clung to sweat, turning skin into cracked clay. The silence pressed in on them. Only the dragging of feet broke it. Cole felt the weight of it all bearing down on him. What if I'm wrong? What if it was just a story? Elias Maddox had told plenty of tales by the fire. Some true, some stretched wide with imagination. Cole had never needed to know which were which. Until now. Behind him, something collapsed. He turned. Sani had dropped to her knees in the sand, too weak to go any farther. Before Cole could react, Koda was already there. He lifted her with surprising care, pulling her up and carrying her across his shoulders like she weighed nothing. But Cole saw it, the tremor in his legs. Even the strongest were running on fumes. We must hurry, Takai said, stepping up beside him, his English rough but clear. 2 hours, maybe 3. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Cole nudged Dust forward, picking up the pace just enough, careful not to leave the weakest behind. Every second mattered now. The stone eagle rose closer now, towering against the harsh blue sky. From here, the illusion was flawless. Wings spread wide, head bowed slightly, as if the great bird had been frozen in time, standing watch over the desert forever. When they finally reached its base, Cole swung down from Dust and studied the rock carefully, eyes scanning every angle. The sun was climbing, almost at its peak. According to Elias Maddox's story, the eagle's shadow would reveal the path, but only at high noon. Not yet. We wait, Cole said, pointing up at the sky. Takai's face tightened. Across the clearing, Koda had just laid Sani beneath the thin shade of a towering cactus. Now he strode forward, anger burning in every step. He spoke fast, sharp, accusing, pointing at the sun, then at the little ones, then straight at Cole. Takai exhaled, tired. He says, "You bring us here to die. While we wait, death comes." Cole kept his voice steady, even as his pulse hammered in his chest. "Tell him if we move now without knowing where to go, we die for sure. This is a gamble, I know, but it's the only one we've got." Takai translated. Koda spat into the sand at Cole's feet. Clear enough. But he didn't walk away. He stayed right there, arms crossed, eyes locked on Cole, watching, waiting, judging every breath. Time dragged. Minutes stretched into something that felt like hours. Cole kept his eyes on the ground as the eagle's shadow crept slowly across the sand. Too slow. The little ones had stopped crying. That silence, it was worse than anything. Some of the river women began to sing softly. Low, trembling voices drifting through the heat. Prayers. Pleas. Desperation wrapped in sound. Then a sharp cry split the air. Yara's baby, little one, started convulsing in her arms. The sound that tore out of her throat froze everyone where they stood. Takai rushed to her side, taking the child, rocking him urgently. The baby's lips had turned blue. "Now!" Koda shouted, pointing at Cole, fury blazing. "There's no time!" Cole looked up. The shadow. Almost there. Almost. He made his choice. He pulled his canteen, the last of his water, and handed it to Takai. "For the child," he said. Only a few drops. Takai stared at him, surprised. Then something deeper flickered in his eyes. Respect. He tilted the canteen, wetting little one's lips carefully. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a cough, a weak cry, but it was a cry. Life, the most beautiful sound Cole had ever heard. Yara took the baby back, tears streaming, whispering thanks he didn't need to understand. Koda watched. Something shifted in his expression. Just for a moment, then it hardened again. "The shadow," Takai said suddenly. Cole turned. The eagle's shadow now stretched perfectly to the east, sharp and straight like an arrow across the sand. This was it. Cole stepped forward, counting under his breath as he followed the line. 10, 20, 30. His heartbeat climbed with every step. 40, 50. He stopped. Nothing. Just sand. Scattered rocks. Empty ground. A murmur rippled through the group. Koda let out a bitter laugh and started toward Cole, something dangerous in his stride. But Cole didn't move. Didn't give in. He dropped to his knees and started digging. "It's here," he muttered. "It has to be here." His fingers clawed through the sand, then hit something. Stone. Not natural. Worked. Shaped. Built by hands. "Help me!" he shouted. Takai and several others rushed in. They dug together, throwing sand aside that had been buried for years, maybe decades. Slowly, a structure began to take form. A ring of stones, sealing something beneath. Coda stepped in too, curiosity winning over anger, for now. They worked faster, harder, heaving stones that took 3 men to move. Then, the last one shifted. A sound rose from below, a faint bubbling, then stronger, and suddenly, water. It burst upward, not in a violent spray, but in a steady, living flow. Clear, clean water filled the hollow between the stones, forming a small pool that shimmered under the sun. For a moment, no one moved. Then everything broke loose. People rushed forward, falling to their knees, hands plunging into the water. Some cried, some laughed like they'd lost their minds. Life had come back to the desert. Mothers rushed forward carrying their little ones, young men steadying the stone elders as they stumbled toward the water. The sound of life returning filled the desert. Hands splashing, water gulped down, laughter breaking loose like a storm after drought. Cole stepped back, letting them drink first. He lowered himself onto a rock, legs shaking, not from exhaustion, but from the weight finally lifting off his shoulders. He'd done it. Elias Maddox hadn't been telling stories. Takai approached, water still dripping from his face. He didn't speak, just placed a firm hand on Cole's shoulder and squeezed. That was enough. Even Coda, watching from a distance, looked at him differently now. Not trust, not yet. But the raw hostility was gone, replaced by something quieter, something harder to define. Cole allowed himself a faint smile. 40 lives, not a bad day's work. What he didn't know. This was just the beginning. The real trials were still ahead. 3 days passed after the spring was found. The camp of the Red Sky people had come back to life. Little ones ran between the rocks, their laughter echoing off stone walls. River women arranged the lodges in a wide circle around the water, turning that lonely patch of desert into something alive, something almost sacred. Stone elders rested in the shade, their strength slowly returning, voices carrying old stories into the warm air. Cole had planned to leave on the 2nd day. His job was done. But something held him there. Maybe it was the quiet gratitude in their eyes. Maybe it was the way the little ones had started following him around, curious about the stranger who had pulled them back from death. Or maybe, for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a man drifting nowhere. That afternoon, as Cole tightened Dust's saddle, ready to ride out, someone came running. Mika. "Takai calls for you," he said in surprisingly clean English. "Important. Very important." Cole followed him to the largest lodge in the camp. It stood taller than the rest, marked with symbols he didn't understand, but he could feel their meaning. 2 Iron Veil guards stood at the entrance. Their faces were serious but not hostile. Inside, the space opened wide. Takai sat on finely worked hides, surrounded by the stone elders. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs, giving the place a heavy, ceremonial feel. Off to one side, Coda stood silent, watching everything with unreadable eyes. "Sit, my friend," Takai said, gesturing in front of him. Cole sat, feeling the weight in the room shift. Something was coming. Takai studied him for a long moment, as if measuring every word before speaking. "You saved my people," he said at last. 40 lives that would have ended in the sand, little ones who will now grow, stone elders who will see another sunrise. This is not small. Cole shifted slightly, uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone would have done the same. No, one of the stone elders said, voice deep and steady. Not anyone. Many would have ridden past. Others would have asked for payment first. Takai nodded slowly. You gave your last water to a dying child, without hesitation. He paused. In my people's way, a life debt is sacred. It cannot remain unpaid. The room grew still. The honor of my people demands we offer you something equal to what you have given. Takai lifted his hand. The lodge curtains parted. River women began to enter. One by one they stepped forward, forming a line before Cole. Young, beautiful, dressed in their finest. Cole counted without meaning to. 22. His heartbeat picked up, unease creeping into his chest. These are the unmarried women of our tribe, Takai said with solemn weight. Daughters, nieces, blood of our people, each has agreed to this honor. He looked directly at Cole. I offer them all to you. They will be your wives. They will give you strong children. They will build your home. They are yours. Silence slammed into the room. Cole looked at the faces before him. Some of the river women looked at him with quiet curiosity. Others lowered their eyes, shy, uncertain. A few offered faint, hopeful smiles, but one of them held his gaze. She stood taller than the rest, her features refined, her presence calm but powerful. Her eyes shone with sharp intelligence, steady and unafraid. A turquoise necklace rested against her sun-warmed skin, catching the light like something sacred. She didn't smile. She just looked at him, like she could see straight through him. Takai noticed. This is my daughter, he said, Ayana. The most precious of them all. His voice carried weight. She is yours as well, if you choose. The air seemed to thicken around Cole. How do you refuse something like that, without insulting an entire people? But how do you accept it? 22 wives? It wasn't just impossible, it was wrong. Then he saw Coda. The young warrior stood stiff as iron, fists clenched so tight his knuckles had gone pale. But he wasn't looking at Cole. He was looking at Ayana. And in his eyes, there was no mistaking it. Love and pain. It hit Cole all at once. Coda loved her. Not something new, not passing, something old, deep, the kind that grows over years. They had probably grown up side by side, built a future in their minds long before this moment ever came. And now, honor demanded she be handed to a stranger. The tension inside the lodge thickened. Some of the stone elders nodded in approval, seeing only the greatness of the offer. Others watched Cole closely, waiting to see what kind of man he truly was. The river women remained silent, but their eyes spoke everything. Hope, fear, resignation. Takai leaned forward slightly. Cole, he began carefully, this honor is beyond words. Cole took a breath. This gift you offer, it means more than I can say. Takai nodded once, expecting acceptance. But I have to be honest with you, Cole continued, his voice steady but firm. Where I come from, a man takes one wife, and that choice, it has to be built on more than duty or gratitude. A ripple moved through the council. Some of the stone elders frowned. Coda leaned forward, his eyes locked on Cole now, sharp with new intensity. You refuse our gift? One elder asked, offense edging into his tone. Do you find our women unworthy? No, Cole said quickly. Not at all. Any one of them would honor any man. He paused, searching for the right words. Ayana was still watching him. Unreadable. What did she think of all this? Did she even have a choice? Somehow? He doubted it. I need time, Cole said at last. This isn't something a man decides in a heartbeat. Takai exchanged glances with the stone elders. Low voices filled the lodge, short, intense. Then the chief nodded. You have until sunrise, he said. But understand this, Cole. This debt must be paid. If you do not accept our women, you must offer another way. Honor demands it. The river women were dismissed, filing out in silence. Ayanna was the last to leave. At the entrance, she stopped, turned, looked straight at Cole. Her lips moved. Silent words meant only for him. Please, don't. Then she was gone. Cole stepped out into the night, his mind spinning. Before he could take another breath, Coda was there, grabbing his arm hard enough to hurt. If you touch her, Coda whispered, his English sharp, cutting. If you take her from me, I swear by every spirit, I'm not going to, Cole cut in, firm. Coda froze. But we need to talk, Cole added. You and me. Now. They stood there under the desert sky, stars burning cold above them. Between them, tension sharp enough to draw blood. But for the first time, something else was there too. Understanding. And whatever came next, it was going to change everything. Cole and Coda walked in silence to the edge of the camp, where the glow of the fire barely reached. Above them, the sky stretched endless and black, filled with stars so sharp and bright it felt like you could reach up and cut your hand on them. The desert night carried a cool breeze, a brief mercy after the day's brutal heat. You speak English real well? Cole said at last, breaking the silence. Coda let out a dry breath. Missionaries, he said, bitterness lining every word. Before they drove us off our land, they taught me your language, your ways. He paused, jaw tightening. They thought they could make me forget who I am. He looked back toward the camp. They failed. They sat down on separate rocks, leaving space between them, close enough to talk, far enough to stay cautious. Coda's gaze stayed fixed on the fire where Takai's lodge stood. Ayanna and I were promised to each other as children, he said quietly. She was 10. I was 12. Our families made the bond. His voice tightened. We've waited, all these years, preparing for the day we'd finally be one. Cole studied him for a moment. She loves you? He asked. Coda didn't hesitate. With every breath she takes. His voice softened, then cracked slightly. The same way I love her. Silence settled between them again. But my uncle, Coda continued, quieter now. His honor stands above my heart. If he gives his word, I cannot challenge him, not without shaming my blood. Cole watched him closely. He could see it tearing the man apart. Love against duty, heart against honor. No man should have to choose between those things. I won't take her, Cole said finally, firm and steady. Not her, not any of them. It ain't right. Coda turned sharply, surprise flashing across his face, followed by something else. Hope. You mean that? He asked. Every word. Cole exhaled slowly. But there's a problem. Your uncle says a life debt has to be paid. If I refuse the women, I gotta offer something else. Coda nodded, thinking. There is another way, he said after a moment. In our way, if a man refuses a gift of honor, he can prove himself through trials. What kind of trials? Skill, strength, wisdom. Coda's eyes met his. If you pass, you earn the right to offer your own solution. And if I don't? Coda didn't answer. He didn't have to. Cole gave a small, knowing nod. "And you'd help me?" he asked. "Why? 3 days ago you wanted me dead." Coda was quiet for a long moment. "Because I saw what you did," he said at last. "You gave your last water to a dying child. When we found the spring, you drank last after everyone else." He shook his head slightly. "Those are not the actions of a bad man." Another pause. "And because, if you help me keep Ayana, I will owe you." Cole held out his hand. "Then we've got ourselves a deal." Coda looked at it for a second, then took it. Deal. The next morning, Cole stood before the council. Takai and the stone elders sat in a wide circle, their faces serious, waiting. The river women were there too, seated in a half-circle behind them. Ayana sat among them, her head lowered. But Cole saw it, her hands trembling ever so slightly. He stepped forward. "I've made my decision," he said. "With all due respect, I can't accept these women as my wives." A ripple moved through the gathering. "Not because they are unworthy," Cole continued. "Any one of them would honor any man. But my heart, it can't be divided that way. It wouldn't be honest." Murmurs spread, confusion mixing with offense. One of the stone elders rose to his feet, eyes hard. "You refuse our greatest gift?" he demanded. "You insult our daughters?" "I insult no one," Cole replied calmly. Then he lifted his chin slightly. "But I ask for the old right. Let me prove my worth another way. Give me the trials, and I will offer a different way to repay this debt of honor." Takai leaned forward, his eyes locked on Cole, studying him with sharp intensity. "You know our ways?" he asked. "Coda taught me," Cole answered, noticing the flicker of surprise spreading across several faces. Takai turned his head slightly toward his nephew. Coda gave a single nod. Something passed between them. Silent, unspoken. A message Cole couldn't quite read, but he could feel its weight. "Very well," Takai said at last. "You will face 3 trials." He raised a hand, counting them off. "First, a horse race. Ride to the Twin Rocks and back. Second, track and find the ghost stag of the valley, without harming it. Third, a test of endurance. You will face our strongest warrior." Cole let out a slow breath. "Who's your strongest warrior?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "I am." Coda stepped forward. There was something in his eyes, something layered. Challenge, respect, and maybe just a trace of amusement. "I accept all 3, Cole said without hesitation. The first trial began at noon. The entire camp gathered to watch. Far out on the horizon stood the Twin Rocks, 2 identical stone pillars rising from the earth like sentinels. Cole figured they were about 5 miles out. The ground between here and there was unforgiving. Loose sand, jagged stone, cactus thick enough to cripple a careless horse. Coda would ride against him. His mount, Storm, was a powerful pinto, built for speed and stamina. Younger than Dust. Faster too, most likely. Takai stepped forward. "The rules are simple," he said. "Ride around both rocks, then return. First to cross this line wins. No other limits." The 2 riders lined up. Cole felt Dust tense beneath him, picking up on the energy in the air. The horse flicked his ears toward Storm, who answered with a sharp, focused stare. "May the best man win," Coda said. "Let's see," Cole replied. Takai raised his arm. Silence fell. Then, with a sharp cry, his arm dropped. Both horses exploded forward, sand blasting into the air behind them. Storm surged ahead immediately, his youth and speed giving him the edge in the first stretch. But Cole didn't chase. Not yet. He knew Dust. The old horse didn't have the fastest legs, but he could go longer than most. This wasn't a sprint, it was survival. They crossed the first open stretch. Coda held a lead of 3 horse lengths. Then came the rocks. Everything changed. Speed meant less here. Balance, instinct, experience. That's what mattered now. Cole leaned forward, guiding Dust through the jagged terrain. The horse moved with practiced ease, weaving between stone like he'd done it his whole life. Coda had to slow more than once, avoiding dangerous footing. By the time they reached the twin rocks, they were even. They circled the formations almost side by side, then turned back. Now both horses were breathing hard. This was where it got real. Coda pushed Storm harder, trying to break ahead again. Then Cole saw it. A slight hitch. Storm stumbled just enough, favoring one leg. He'd stepped wrong in the rocks. Cole's eyes narrowed. He could win. All he had to do was press forward, take the lead, leave Coda behind. But then, he remembered why he was here. This wasn't about beating a man. It was about proving something. Slowly, Cole eased back. He kept Dust running beside Storm instead of pulling ahead. Coda glanced over, confused. "What are you doing?" he shouted over the wind. "Your horse is hurt." "Not bad," Cole called back. "But enough." "Then win." Cole shook his head. "I don't need to win. I just need to prove I'm worth something." They rode side by side the rest of the way, crossed the line together. A perfect tie. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in confused murmurs. A tie? That wasn't something they expected. Takai stood, watching both men dismount. Coda checked Storm's leg, confirming the slight injury. "One did not win," one of the stone elders said. "This is unusual." "No," Coda said suddenly, straightening. All eyes turned to him. "Cole won." Silence. "He saw my horse was hurt and chose not to take advantage." Coda's voice was clear. "That is greater than speed. That is honor." Takai nodded slowly. Approval settled across his face. "The first trial is complete," he declared. "Rest. Tomorrow at sunrise, the second trial begins. The ghost stag awaits." A tie was not something these trials were built for. Takai rose slowly, watching both riders as they dismounted. Coda crouched beside Storm, running his hand along the horse's leg, confirming the slight limp Cole had already seen. "A tie," one of the stone elders said, his voice uncertain. "This complicates matters." "No." Coda's voice cut through the murmurs, drawing every eye toward him. "Cole won." Silence fell. "He saw my horse was injured and chose not to take advantage," Coda continued, standing tall. "That is more than speed. That is honor." Takai nodded, approval settling across his face. "The first trial is complete," he said. "Rest now. Tomorrow at sunrise, you face the second trial. The ghost stag." That night, Cole lay beneath the open sky, staring up at the endless stars. He was just about to drift off when he heard soft footsteps. Ayana approached quietly, wrapped in a woven blanket. In her hands, she carried a steaming bowl. "I brought you food," she said, her English careful but clear. "You must be strong for tomorrow." Cole sat up, accepting it with a nod. The stew was simple, dried meat and desert herbs, but it was warm, filling, real. "Thank you," he said. "You're English. It's good." Ayana gave a faint smile. "Coda taught me. He learned from missionaries, then passed it on to me." She sat a short distance away, eyes drifting up toward the stars. He says knowing another language makes us stronger. Silence settled between them for a moment. Then she spoke again. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "You could leave. No one would stop you now." Cole stared into the darkness for a second before answering. "Because doing the right thing ain't always the easy thing." He glanced at her. "And because two people who love each other shouldn't be torn apart by tradition." Ayana's eyes shimmered, holding back tears. "Coda told you," she said. "He did," Cole replied, "and I can see the rest just by looking at you." She lowered her gaze. "My father is a good man," she said quietly. "But sometimes honor blinds him. He believes he is doing what is right, paying a sacred debt." Her voice trembled. "But he doesn't see the pain it brings." "He will," Cole said firmly. "I just need to get through these trials. And then I'll have the right to offer something better." Ayana looked back at him. "And what is that?" Cole gave a small, confident smile. "You'll see." Dawn came painted in gold and violet across the desert sky. The second trial awaited. Finding the ghost stag. According to Coda, who had quietly given him guidance the night before, the creature wasn't just an animal, it was something more. Elusive, Coda had said. Like the wind. Many have hunted it for weeks and failed. The key is not to chase it, but to understand it. It is not your enemy. It is a spirit that tests your patience and your respect for the land. Cole rode out alone. Just a canteen at his side, and a red cloth, something he had to tie to the stag's antler as proof. One rule stood above all. He could not harm the animal. Hours passed. Cole searched the valley, reading the ground. Tracks, grazing marks, droppings. Signs were there, but they led nowhere. Dead ends. False trails. The sun climbed higher, turning the valley into a furnace. Then, he remembered something Elias Maddox used to say. Wild animals live by patterns. Water at dawn, shade at noon, feeding at dusk. Cole looked at the sky. Midday. The stag wouldn't be roaming. It would be hiding. He changed his approach, stopped chasing, started thinking. He searched for the best shade in the valley. A narrow canyon with high walls and a thin stream cutting through it. Perfect. He slipped between the rocks and waited. Time crawled. Then, after nearly 2 hours, it appeared. Silent as a ghost. The ghost stag, white as fresh snow, marked with faint gray shadows. Its antlers gleamed in the sunlight like polished bone. Its eyes were sharp, aware, watching everything. Cole didn't move, didn't breathe more than he had to. The stag stepped forward, drank from the stream, then lifted its head, testing the air. It knew. Someone was there. Cole didn't reach for it, didn't rush. Instead, he began to speak. Low, steady, meaningless words. Not the language, the tone. Calm, peaceful. No threat. Slowly, carefully. He pulled out the red cloth. The ghost stag stood there, caught between instinct and curiosity. Its eyes locked on Cole, unsure whether to bolt or stay. Cole slowly lifted the red cloth, letting it drift lightly in the warm breeze. The bright color flickered in the sunlight, pulling the animal's attention. Step by step, he moved closer. Slow, steady. Every motion smooth, predictable. His voice stayed low, a soft murmur. Nothing important in the words, only calm in the tone. Closer, closer. When he was near enough, he reached out, holding the cloth toward the stag. The animal leaned in, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the fabric. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, slowly, almost unbelievably, the stag lowered its head. Cole's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. Carefully, gently, he tied the red cloth around the stag's left antler. The creature allowed it, just for a heartbeat. Then it sprang back in a flash of white and vanished into the rocks like it had never been there at all. Gone, like a spirit. Cole let out a long breath. He'd done it. By the time he returned to camp that afternoon, the stone elders watched him with doubt in their eyes. Until the dust scouts came in. They had seen it. The ghost stag, with the red cloth tied to its antler. The story spread fast. Some called it magic. Others said the spirits had chosen Cole. That night, Takai stood before the people. 2 trials are complete, he declared. Tomorrow, the last. A test of endurance against Coda. The final day rose heavy with tension. The entire camp formed a wide circle in the sand. The rules were simple, brutal. No weapons, no stopping. They would fight until one man could no longer stand or chose to yield. Striking wasn't forbidden, but this wasn't about winning a brawl. It was about strength, endurance, control. Cole and Coda stepped into the center. Both stripped off their shirts, revealing bodies carved by hard lives. Scarred, strong, unyielding. "Don't hold back," Coda muttered under his breath. "If this is going to work, it has to look real." "It will," Cole said, a faint grin tugging at his lips. Takai raised his hand, then dropped it. Coda moved first, fast, precise, like a predator closing in. Cole blocked, countered, then took a hard hit to the ribs that knocked the air clean out of him. They locked together, muscles straining, boots digging into the sand as each tried to gain leverage. The fight dragged on, under the burning sun. Minutes stretched. Into an hour. Sweat poured. Breathing turned ragged. Every muscle screamed for rest. But neither man backed down. The crowd watched in silence. This kind of trial didn't last this long. Not ever. These two were evenly matched. In strength, in will, in something deeper. Finally. After nearly 2 hours, both men dropped to their knees at the same time. Completely spent. Coda looked up, then extended his hand. Cole took it. They pulled each other to their feet. "Draw," Takai declared. And for the first time in days, he smiled. "You have proven your worth beyond all doubt, Cole Maddox. You have earned the right to speak." Cole, still catching his breath, turned toward him. "My answer is this," he said. "I don't want wives." A ripple ran through the crowd. "I want something better." He paused, letting the words settle. "I want to build a trading post here, by the spring. A place where your people can trade. Goods, knowledge, anything they choose, with the outside world. A place of peace. A place of growth." He took one more breath. "And I ask that Ayanna be free to choose who she marries." The camp erupted into voices. Takai turned slowly toward his daughter. Ayanna stood there, head lowered, but her hands, they were tightly clasped with Coda's. Takai closed his eyes for a moment, then let out a deep breath. When he looked up again, he smiled, accepted.